Hello again, this is Pastor Tim coming to you from Central Texas in the small towns of Alameda and Bend, where we are the Methodist Church, United Methodist Church, in our place in our time. We are talking about Bible themes because we think it's important to study the Bible, but it's often difficult if you don't have some kind of entry point, if you don't have some kind of way to begin to understand as you begin to study. And it's always good to study together with other people, so I encourage you to do that. We've been doing the Sermon on the Mount as kind of the summary statement, the teaching that is the standard by which we worship God and see God in Jesus, and we assume that we believe that this is the truth for all of our lives. The Sermon on the Mount is especially kind of difficult because it asks us to do hard things. Today we're talking about about retaliation. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's from the Old Testament, and the reason why they taught that in the Old Testament was to limit how much revenge you got. The idea was that if somebody knocked your tooth out, you could only knock their tooth out. You couldn't stab them. A lot of violence in the world today is about retaliation. There's much more than anything that was done initially. And Jesus said, no, stop that. Quit retaliating. Offer good for evil. To love your enemies. To not return evil for evil, but return good for evil. It's not only a way of dealing with people that sets you free, it's also a way of changing the dynamics of the situation. Now, retaliation is difficult because most of our movies are about retaliation. If somebody does something to you first, and they're bad people, then you can do whatever you want to in return, and you're justified in doing that. And I think that Jesus is saying that that's not what God wants, that we're all God's children, and just like you won't want one child retaliating against another, you have to stop the violence. And I think that's what Jesus is saying, that in the Old Testament is a limit to how much violence, and Jesus said, make it absolute. Don't return violence for violence. You have to do something else. You have to change the dynamics. You have to interrupt the chain of events so that something different can happen, because otherwise life becomes just a chain of retaliations, trying to get even, which there is no such thing in the world. And he said that do not resist an evildoer, but if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. That's probably the most difficult thing in the world to do, and probably something that most people don't do. But it's a chance to change the idea that whoever's the strongest, whoever gets the last lick in, wins. It's not a matter of winning or losing. It's creating a win-win situation. Is trying to change the person that is coming against you, and to change yourself, to change your reaction. It said, do not swear. No, excuse me. If anyone wants to sue you, take your coat, give them their cloak as well. That would put all the lawyers out of business, because if you just said, okay, if you want something, take it. Because it's not that important. There are other things that are more important. The idea of getting even, of somebody trying to get even with you and you getting even with somebody else, just doesn't work in the long run. He said, if someone forces you to go a mile, go a second mile. In ancient Israel, when the Romans were occupying the territory, it was by Roman law, that a soldier could have you carry their pack for 1 mile. After 1 mile, then they had to take it back. But they could force you to take it for 1 mile. And if you took it 2 miles, that was very confusing to them. Why would somebody go out of their way to do extra for them. But it's exactly that extra that changes their balance, has the possibility of changing their perspective, because doing the minimum is not going to change anybody's idea of who you are or who God is, but it offers something different. Give to someone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. That is very difficult. You feel like you're being stepped on, you're taken advantage of. But I think Jesus is saying, be willing to do that, because what material possessions we have are not that important. What we have is love and care for one another, and that's what really matters. I've heard it say one time that you can't take it with you. I've heard it many times say you can't take it with you, but you can. You can take it with you the people who you loved, and it changed their perspective, and they came to faith. They're going to be with you. You're going to take them with you to heaven. So this is a different dynamic. This is a hard dynamic that more than one person could not do. But God doesn't ask us to do the minimum. God asks us to do the maximum. And it will be a challenge, and we will fail from time to time. But that's the ideal. It's not to get even so you protect yourself. It's to give yourself to another person so that they can change their perspective. That's one of the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. It's a hard one, but it's worth trying. So I hope that that's food to chew on, and that you might get some growth in your spirit out of that. But we'll see you next time.